Breaking: Binwell Mpundu responds after suspension from Parliament. What he just said. Good day, viewers. Welcome to InspirAfrica Official. In a move that sent shockwaves through Zambia's political landscape, Independent Member of Parliament, Binwell Mpundu, has finally spoken out after being suspended from Parliament. His response: bold, emotional, and aimed directly at those he believes are silencing independent voices. Tonight, we uncover what he really said, why he said it, and what this means for the balance of power in Zambia's National Assembly. Stay with us, because what's coming next might just reshape the conversation about freedom of speech and political accountability in Zambia. Well, what a week it's been in Zambian politics. Just when you thought the dust was settling on parliamentary affairs, something extraordinary happens that sends shockwaves through the corridors of power. And today, we're diving into a story that has absolutely gripped the nation. Picture this: a veteran parliamentarian, a man who has walked the halls of power for years, suddenly finds himself locked out of the very chamber where he once commanded respect and wielded influence. The doors that once opened for him now remain firmly shut. His seat, empty. His voice, silenced. His privileges, stripped away. But what happens when a man stripped of his platform refuses to stay silent? What happens when suspension becomes not an ending, but a beginning? What drove the authorities to take such drastic action against Binwell Mpundu? Was it something he said? Something he did? Or perhaps, something he knew? And now that he's spoken out, what explosive revelations has he brought to light? What accusations has he leveled? What defenses has he mounted? Is this a story of political persecution, or accountability finally catching up? Is this about protecting parliamentary dignity, or silencing inconvenient voices? And most critically, what does this mean for the future of parliamentary democracy in Zambia? The answers, as you're about to discover, are more complex and more compelling than anyone could have imagined. The revelation came to light in early November 2025, when news broke that Binwell Mpundu, the Member of Parliament for Lamizi constituency, had been formally suspended from the National Assembly. The announcement sent ripples through Zambian political circles, with supporters and critics alike scrambling to understand the full implications of this unprecedented move. For those unfamiliar with the backstory, Mpundu has been a controversial figure in Zambian politics, particularly in recent months. Known for his fiery rhetoric and unwavering commitment to holding the government accountable, he had become something of a thorn in the side of the ruling establishment. The suspension didn't come out of nowhere. It was the culmination of events that had been brewing beneath the surface of parliamentary proceedings for weeks, if not months. The initial controversy began when Mpundu allegedly made statements that parliamentary authorities deemed to be in contempt of the House. These weren't minor procedural violations or simple breaches of etiquette. According to official parliamentary records, the matter was first raised during heated parliamentary sessions where pointed questions were posed about his conduct, his adherence to parliamentary privilege and protocol, and whether he had crossed the line from vigorous debate into outright disrespect for the institution itself. The sequence of events unfolded rapidly, almost breathtakingly so for those watching from the outside. First came the formal complaints from fellow parliamentarians, many of them from the ruling party, who argued that Mpundu's behavior had become increasingly untenable and disruptive to parliamentary business. Then came the investigation by the Committee on Privileges, Absences, and Support Services, a body tasked with maintaining parliamentary standards and discipline. The committee conducted interviews, reviewed transcripts, and examined the context of Mpundu's alleged infractions. This was followed by tense deliberations on the parliamentary floor, where accusations and defenses were laid bare before the entire assembly, with members from both sides of the aisle weighing in on whether the alleged violations warranted the severe penalty of suspension. The National Assembly, after extensive debate that stretched across multiple sessions, ultimately voted to suspend Mpundu from parliamentary duties. The decision was not unanimous, but it carried enough support to be implemented immediately. The suspension meant he was barred from entering Parliament, participating in debates, asking questions during question time, voting on legislation, or exercising any of the duties and privileges that come with being a member of Parliament. His salary and allowances were also affected by the decision, adding financial consequences to the political ones. But Mpundu, known throughout his political career for his outspoken nature and refusal to back down from a fight, was not about to accept this decision in silence. Within days of the suspension being announced, he began organizing his response, consulting with legal advisors, rallying his supporters in Limezi, and preparing to fight back against what he would soon characterize as a grave injustice and an assault on democratic principles. In his first public statement following the suspension, Binwell Mpundu came out swinging. Speaking to journalists and supporters, his words were defiant, calculated, and loaded with implications. "I want to make it absolutely clear," Mpundu began, his voice steady but tinged with frustration, "that this suspension is not about parliamentary procedure. It's not about privilege or protocol. This is about silencing voices that ask uncomfortable questions. This is about punishing those who refuse to toe the party line." When pressed about the specific charges that led to his suspension, Mpundu didn't mince words. "They say I was in contempt of Parliament." Contempt? Let me tell you what contempt really looks like. Contempt is when the people's representatives ignore the suffering of citizens. Contempt is when questions about missing funds go unanswered. Contempt is when transparency is treated as a threat rather than a virtue. A journalist asked him directly, "Honorable Mpundu, do you accept that you violated any parliamentary rules?" His response was immediate. "I accept that I challenged the status quo. I accept that I asked questions that made some people uncomfortable. But violation? No. Everything I said, everything I did, was within my constitutional mandate as a representative of the people of Limezi." "So you're saying the suspension is politically motivated?" the reporter followed up. Mpundu leaned forward, his expression intense. "What I'm saying is this. When you have a parliament that is supposed to represent the people, and that parliament decides to remove one of its own members for doing exactly what the people sent him there to do, then yes, you have to ask yourself what the real motivation is. Is it about maintaining order, or is it about maintaining power?" When asked about his next steps, Mpundu was equally clear. "I will fight this suspension through every legal avenue available to me. I will appeal this decision. I will take this to the courts if necessary. Because this is not just about me. This is about every Zambian who believes that their elected representatives should be free to speak truth to power without fear of retribution." He continued, "The people of Limezi did not elect me to be a rubber stamp. They elected me to be their voice, to ask the hard questions, to demand accountability. And that's exactly what I'll continue to do, whether I'm inside that chamber or outside it." Mpundu's response raises profound questions about the balance between parliamentary discipline and freedom of speech within legislative bodies. On one hand, parliamentary privilege exists precisely to protect members from intimidation and allow them to speak freely on behalf of their constituents. The immunity from civil or criminal proceedings for things said in Parliament is a cornerstone of democratic governance, designed to ensure that representatives can hold the executive accountable without fear. On the other hand, parliaments must maintain order, decorum, and respect for institutional procedures. Without some enforcement mechanism, the legislative process could descend into chaos, with members saying anything without consequence. Reactions to Mpundu's suspension and his subsequent response have been sharply divided along predictable lines. Opposition parties have rallied to his defense. The United Party for National Development members who spoke on condition of anonymity suggested that this sets a dangerous precedent. If MPs can be suspended for asking tough questions, one opposition figure stated, then what's the point of having an opposition at all? Civil society organizations have also weighed in. Transparency International Zambia and the Chapter 1 Foundation have called for a review of the suspension, arguing that the public has a right to robust parliamentary debate, even when that debate becomes contentious. However, supporters of the suspension point to the need for institutional integrity. Government supporters argue that Mpundu repeatedly violated parliamentary procedures, used unparliamentary language, and showed contempt for the Speaker's rulings. They maintain that no member, regardless of their constituency or party affiliation, is above the rules. Legal experts are divided on whether Mpundu's planned legal challenge will succeed. Constitutional law professor Dr. O'Brien Kaba noted that while courts generally hesitate to interfere in parliamentary internal matters, there are circumstances where judicial review is appropriate, particularly if constitutional rights are at stake. The case also highlights broader concerns about the state of Zambian democracy under the current administration. Critics point to what they see as a pattern of intolerance for dissent, while government supporters argue they're simply enforcing standards that apply to everyone equally. Perhaps most significantly, Mpundu's defiant response has transformed what could have been a quiet disciplinary matter into a national conversation about accountability, representation, and the very nature of parliamentary democracy. Thank you so much for watching this edition of InspirAfrica Official. This is a developing story, and we'll be following every twist and turn as Binwell Mpundu pursues his legal options and as Parliament responds to the growing scrutiny of this decision. What do you think? Is Mpundu a champion of accountability being unjustly silenced, or did he cross a line that Parliament had every right to enforce? Is this suspension justified, or does it set a dangerous precedent for parliamentary freedom? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. We want to hear from you, whether you agree, disagree, or see shades of gray in this complex situation. We'll be back tomorrow with more stories that matter, more analysis that digs deeper, and more conversations that challenge us to think critically about the state of our democracy. Until then, stay informed, stay engaged, and stay inspired. This is Nakash, signing off. See you tomorrow.